All right, I am a podcast man. I think you'll agree. I am a podcast man. All right, this is the solo show. We'll try this. I I you know, I God damn it, this fucking I've got this like some sort of podcast mic, but I think it might be broken or something. I stole it from Amazon. Um how do you do that? You order something from Amazon and then call an Indian woman on their customer service line and tell her that you never got it. And then when she says, "Well, our records indicate that UPS delivered that on this date," you say, "Well, a lot of porch pirates in my neighborhood, if you know what I mean." And then they send you another one because you lied to them about your shit getting stolen off the porch. And then if you do that enough times, eventually they will not allow you to contact customer service again or rate and review products. It doesn't matter. Um, you know, I wanted to be a schemer and a scammer, and I scammed myself and have lost everything. But what do I have left? Podcasting. I'm the Daniel Plainview of podcasts. I have a straw and I put it into your. What would he? Yeah, if it was Daniel Plainview in 2023, he'd be like, I drink your soylent. I slurp it up. I drink your soylent. That's what he would. Because so I found out that actually, so I watched that movie a lot, or no, I watched it once. I've seen that movie one time, and I always wondered if did milkshakes exist then? Because if you asked me, like I would have said milkshakes were invented in like the 30s, and I wasn't far off. I looked it up. Turns out the milkshake was invented in 1922. So that means at the end of There Will Be Blood, which I think is like in 1927, something like that. I mean, the milkshake was still pretty new, you know. It's like it would have been like now if it was Heinz purple ketchup or some no, that hasn't existed for 20 years. No, forget it. The milkshake was a recent thing at that point, and so um I guess that's why it's a very like egregious action to drink another person's milkshake because they were so new. It was a novelty at that time. Now you can get a milkshake anywhere, and they got them at convenience stores now. You ever have a for real or a Freeze? It's like F apostrophe something. You go to it's like a freezer, and there's like it's like a cup with a like foil lid on it, and then you put it into a machine. They have like a machine there that you like put this like cup into, and you select the thickness you want, and then the machine like blends you a milkshake that's not that good. And it's interesting that they have these in places like Love's or whatever, like places that are usually connected to a McDonald's or a restaurant like that. So you could just go to the McDonald's and get a milkshake there. And everybody says that the McDonald's ice cream machine is always broken, but the reality probably is that they're like fucking cleaning it or something, which is what McDonald's doesn't owe you anything. That's the thing is McDonald's owes none of us nothing. You don't deserve anything when you go to a McDonald's. You don't even deserve good service. They're not getting, no one there is getting paid anything, and it's one of these top down corporations that shit rolls downhill. So there's always like a fat bitch there with a polo on, boss, or like a button, the button down fat bitch at McDonald's who goes around bossing everyone around. And there's just like some black high schooler who's like in minutes away from fucking getting violent because of how shitty that job is. I refuse to do that. I refuse to, like, you know, I started comedy in 2014, and at that time I had this revelation that I never wanted to have to do an honest day's work. That was my motivation for doing my first open mic. Was I don't want to have to actually work for a living. And so, you know, the whole idea of being an artist or whatever was secondary. I mean, it's not even on the list, I think. It was just like I just don't want to have to actually like do anything that requires any real labor. So I said, well, why don't I try and like get into this business where you just get to have fun for a living, you know? Like I'm so good at having fun, you should pay me to watch me have fun. And then you get to have fun in that. Like you hand me money and then I have fun in front of you for like an hour and then you're happy or whatever. And like you get to laugh while I have fun. It's a nice arrangement, you know, but it's also, it's tough to get to that point where people want to pay you to have fun for a living, and who wouldn't want to do that? So it's also, you're competing with like a billion different other fucking jackasses who think they're going to pull this off. But that was my main motivation, and after a long time of doing that and having a questionable digital footprint, I got nothing left. Like I got nothing that I can like fucking go do. So it's at this point, it's like I look at it like I am the next great American confidence man. I'm a con man is truly like what I want to be more than anything. I just want to be a con man. I want to just fleece people, just get people to hand me their money and then they get nothing in return. I think that's what entertainment is pretty much. Especially, podcasting is just convincing people to, spend money on nothing. I don't know. You get something to listen to while you do dishes, I guess. But that's what it is. And I say that truthfully and honestly that I'm a con man and I want you to pay me to so I don't actually have to work. Like at the end of the day, that's kind of the arrangement I'm looking for is I want someone to give me money so that I don't have to do an honest day's labor. And I operate under no delusions that this is anything other than that. I'm not an artist. I'm not a content creator or anything of that nature. I'm purely a confidence man, a schemer, and a scammer. I love nothing more than a good scheme. I love scams. I've been watching the telemarketers documentary, and it's I watch it, and my takeaway is that's a good scam. I like that scam. I'd love to get in. I wish I could have gotten in on that. I'd love to go in a. I would have loved to have worked in a boiler room, calling little old ladies and getting them to spend their dead husband's pensions on some sort of like nothing a charity that doesn't you know spending money on presumably a charity for fallen police officers or what have you, and then almost none of that goes to the actual charity. It's kind of the same business model as the Susan G. Komen Foundation, breast cancer. um so yeah, that's so what I want is for you to give me money, and it's going to me. I'm not even It's not going to go to anything other than me. And then I suppose if the Patreon for this show takes off well enough, the three of us that do it together will split it, or something of that nature. But ideally, so the podcasting sphere is that you like you're conning, you're doing a grift, and then you get enough people watching, listening, and then they pay you for that. So you get paid to do the podcast, and then other cons, other schemes and scams want to join in. So when it gets, when enough people start putting their, when you got enough eyes on you, it's like, then it's like, what if there was water in a beer can, or what if there was some plant-based opioid that costs just as much as the pharmaceutical opioids, but for some reason it's like supposed to be healthier than Percocet, that you could, talk about on your show. What if there was a salves and creams for your balls? What if there was, um, something to make your penis hard? It's a golden age of con men and silver tongued devils. And if you have that in you, if you have that sort of confidence, that like gift of gab or whatever it may be, and you're willing to just, say a bunch of bullshit, you can, I mean, that's where the fortune is these days. If you're working a real job, if you're like going to work and like doing construction or whatever, you're a fucking idiot, because you just sit in front of a microphone and talk about the things that bother you or whatever, and then eventually, like, individuals and companies will pay you to just say more bullshit. It's kind of nice. It's kind of like that's a very American thing, because that was, at the turn of the 20th century, there was a lot of con men. That was This country was founded on schemes and scams, snake oil and cult leaders and all that kind of stuff. So you just have to be willing to put yourself out there. This is my um it's so it's like the same idea of, but like what I'm talking about is kind of the same idea as like with Gary V or Tony Robbins or any of these guys. They talk, like, they do this like motivational bullshit where they like sell you this class or some like a ticket to some like speaking engagement, and they try to tell you like how to get motivated and follow your dreams and sell stuff or whatever. And they're operating under this pretense that like what they're doing is somehow like important in some way. So you they deserve to be paid for what they're doing because they're offering some sort of service, right? But it's a con. So what I'm doing is just telling you I'm doing a con. I'm a confidence man. My back's against the wall. I spent, a long time in and out of psych wards, wearing grippy socks, being pushed around by Nigerian orderlies, and had, doing group therapy sessions with fat black chicks who I don't even know if they had any sort of license to be there, but they would just hand me and, four other guys crayons, and then one of the guys is, talking about how he's been gang stalked and the CIA is tailing him, and he got hit with a direct energy weapon. And I've been there. I've been in that headspace. I know what that feels like. So no judgment toward him. I've spent a lot of time wondering if possibly I was given Havana syndrome by the government, because for Halloween one year, dressed up as a juggalo. I had the face paint and everything, and the juggalos are officially on the FBI list of, gangs. They are listed as a gang. So there's documentation. There's evidence that I am a juggalo, therefore I'm a member of a gang. Therefore, the government would want to surveil me and give me Havana syndrome. And, and that's why I had to walk around my neighborhood, looking for clues and pestering. I had to go into different small businesses and scream at the clerks because I was on to something. I was going to uncover the truth. I said, it doesn't matter if you spend all your money and max out all your credit cards. I am the Messiah, and when all this shakes out, the government's going to deposit $20 million into my bank account, and then I can pay off my family's mortgages and get a nicer apartment and all that kind of stuff. And then come to find out that doesn't happen. Turns out I just was in a bad way. I was in a weird headspace, which was spurred on by a combination of SSRIs and psychedelics, heavy use of psychedelics. I had fun. I had fun doing all those drugs, but it cost me dearly. It cost me, my family, my loved ones, my burgeoning comedy career ground to a halt. But I'm back, and I'm the Daniel Plainview of podcasting. And I'm gonna try. What I'm trying to do here is, I guess a some sort of solo show to go along with the regular show that's the one with me, Kevin, and Sal, because I enjoy talking to myself and I might as well record it. I spend all day anyway just like mumbling things to myself and talking to no one. And so it's like the Joker said, if you're good at something, Joker playing you. If you're good at something, never do it for free. What if yeah, I can't. Yeah, if you're good at something, you never do it for free, and that's podcasting for me. Um, but I'm back, baby. I'm back. I had a big splash, and then I flew a little too close to the sun. You know, Daedalus made wax wings for Icarus, and told Icarus, "Hey, you know, don't fly too close to the sun. These wings are made of wax; they'll melt." And then my wax wings melted, and I crashed into the ocean. But you know, it's the prodigal son. You know, the prodigal son has returned. I lost everything. I went back to my roots, and all is forgiven. And it's time you got to rebuild. You got to bounce back. You know, and I think the way that I do that is podcasting. You know, writing things down, talking about them, talking to people, and then just slowly become the goal is to become the first podcast billionaire. I'm gonna make a you know I want to make $1 billion doing this, um, and I think that's like a reasonable goal, perhaps. I don't know, but yeah, I was out of it for a long time, and people, a lot of people like kept reaching out to me to like ask me what's going on or like how I'm doing or whatever, and I couldn't like form a sentence or a thought or like like it was really like scary. Like I it was really scary, and I got to see the ins and outs, the horrors of our gutted mental health care system in this country. But I made it out the other side, baby. You know, I got out of the psych ward, and I spent some time traveling around in boxcars, sleeping on bales of hay, and eating cans of beans. Rest in peace to Anthony Quinn, good friend who recently passed away. He turned me on to cans of beans, and so I'm finally in a better place, obviously, and I'm ready, dude. I'm ready to get back. I want to get back to fucking riffing bits with the boys and going and doing karaoke and all that stuff. But first things first, I need, I got to fleece thousands of people out of their fucking money because this is the only thing I know how to do. I can't like it, but specifically like just like podcasting and stand up. Like I can't write anything. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to fucking build a shelf or fucking do anything. Like I'm basically just like a puddle, just like a waste of flesh and blood and bone. But at the very least, I can talk into a microphone for however long I need to. I can fill time. I've been asked to do that before. Hey, can you fill time? And it's like, hey, I got like 7 minutes of material, but I have no fear just bullshitting my way through this. I remember one time I went on stage at the it was like the Hyenas open mic in Dallas, and they give you, it was like 5 minutes, and I just like said nothing my entire set. I had this idea, I get whatever you would call that, alternative comedy, anti-comedy. But I just thought it would be fun to see what would the audience's reaction be if I were to just not talk at all. And I still did like I don't know, like the physicalities as if I was actually performing. I pulled the mic out of the stand. I was pacing around, pointing at people, and I think like what ended up happening is like eventually the audience like kind of caught on to what I was like doing and just started like started actually laughing at what was happening. Like once they realized that I was like committing to whatever this was, they actually did find it like kind of funny. And then I got the light and I put the mic back in the stand and I leaned in and I said, "Do I have time for one more?" And the audience just fell. Black guys were slapping tables and running around the room. It was crazy, dude. I'm sure it pissed off anyone that was actually there to work on whatever fucking bullshit material they had. But I had a good ass time. I love stand up comedy. I haven't been able to do it for a long time because I have Havana syndrome. Um, but it's a long road back, and here I am talking to myself and trying to figure out how do you repair a broken. It's like those what's those like Japanese fucking what is the Japanese thing where it's like a fucking porcelain like a porcelain like a tea thing, a tea cup breaks and then you put it back together with uh you glue it back together or something. Like there's some sort of art to break like mending broken teacups, and then it's like more beautiful than it was before because it has the scars, the it's been repaired by some artisan or something. Anyway, so that's what I am is a fucking broken Japanese teacup, and I'm mending the cup, and you'll see the gold shine through inside of me, the light. Um, and yeah, there's no way to like ever live the rest of my life without this what's happened to me being like a big part of it. I can't like go through life without this being like I guess in anything I do, like whether it's uh, like doing anything publicly, like trying to entertain people, or even like just hanging out with friends and outside of all this, like it's gonna be a thing because people are it was all like it was a public thing and it happened and then I just like disappeared. So I think like people thought I might have died or something. So then like moving forward, people are gonna be like, so what the fuck happened to you? And I don't know. I just started telling people I went to jail. To be honest, in fact that's what happened. I went to jail and I did some hard time and I found myself there. I joined the Latin Kings because I think my granddad on my mom's side it was Cuban or something. He was some sort of Hispanic, I think. I don't know. I never knew that much about him. He was this weird guy who like I think like showed up in Florida on a fucking like inflatable couch or something when he was a baby and he got sent to like live at a it's like a home for wayward boys in Amarillo. This place called the Boys Ranch. So he like grew up in like this weird sort of like like a like Charles Xavier mansion, but for just like boys whose parents or whatever didn't want them, and so he just I who knows what went on there. And then I think he joined the Navy and he was in the Navy and then eventually met my grandmother. They had 5 kids together and then he left her and then by the time he died, I think altogether he was married 18 different times. And if I'm not mistaken, 3 of those marriages were never officially divorces. So yeah, I think he was like somehow still married to like 3 different women when he died. I don't know. That may not be true. I didn't know much about him, and he wasn't a nice guy ever. He wasn't like mean to me or any of the grandkids, but he was a prick. He was just one of those guys. Like if we went over to his house, it was one of those like, hey, don't be in the house, go outside. Like, just, I don't know, just be where I can see you, but don't be in here. And he had like a in his backyard. He had a fence. He had a big fence, but he I don't know. I don't know how many people do this, but the fence was like facing inward. So it's like a wooden fence, like a wooden picket fence to like block off the yard and presumably provide some sort of like security against the rest of the neighborhood. But it was like turned around, so like the wooden slat, like the nice looking part of the fence that would normally face outward toward the street and all that, it was a facing in, and all of the like lattice work that keeps the fence together or whatever was like facing outward towards the street and the rest of the neighborhood. And so like I remember one time my uncle pointed that out to me and said, like, do you realize how stupid this is that he did this? Because like, yeah, it's pretty to look at when you're in the backyard. Like he wanted the fence to look pretty on his end, but then anybody that wanted to hop this fucking fence could just climb that the lattice work on the other side of it. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's a good point. I don't know how I don't know anything about fences or any sort of anything that goes into owning a home. I'll never own a house. I think I have like $300 to my name right now, and then probably like $25,000 in different debts, and I owe a lot of bad people a lot of money. But I'll pay that off with podcasting, I guess. I was reading this it was an NPR article about that guy Joseph Biggs that just went to prison for the January 6th thing. And something that caught my attention in the article, and I've seen this in other news stories and articles and things like that, was his name is spelled Biggs. And at one point in the article, it referenced Biggs' charges, the charges being levied against him in regard to the January 6th insurrection. But I'm fascinated by grammar. I'm not that good at it. Like I don't completely understand grammar. Like I never really know where fucking commas go, and I've never learned like how to actually use a semicolon. I mean, I have an English degree, but I'm like I'm more of a Cormac McCarthy kind of guy. Just don't ever use punctuation. But the way they had written it was Biggs apostrophe. So it's Biggs charges, indicating like a possessive, like like it's possessive, right? But I was taught that if it's singular possessive, it would still require an apostrophe s, even though his name ends in an s. It's not plural, therefore you would still need it like an apostrophe s to indicate singular possessive. Otherwise, just the apostrophe indicates plural possessive, right? But I don't know. I've seen that in a lot of writing where if like someone's name ends in s, they just do just the apostrophe when trying to indicate some sort of possession in that way. But I don't know if that's like how it works, because you would do just the apostrophe for plural. So like my last name is Pruitt. So if it was like indicating that Pruitt's whatever the Pruitt's food, something. I'm really creative. It would be Pruitts apostrophe. Whereas if it was just me, it would be Dalton's Dalton apostrophe s. And then if someone's name ends in s, that doesn't mean that it's plural. So you would still do an apostrophe s. But it it's reading it, like I know what they meant. It's not like I like completely lost me that that they only use just the apostrophe and not the apostrophe s. It just made me wonder, like, what are the actual rules on that? But language and grammar is always fluctuating, so none of it makes any sense. But I mean, language is it's fascinating. If you read any of the books about language, like the Noam Chomsky's syntactic structures. and the Tractato Logico Philosophicus, Tractatus, the Wittgenstein book. I don't know. But it's like language is what we use to like interpret the world. So we assign words to the world around us, and that's kind of like our perception of reality. A big part of it is based on words and language. And so in that way, it's language is still very limiting. Like you're very limited in what you can do with language and how you can use it to interpret the world. So there's like parameters around that in the way we use language. And there's sort of like a I don't know, like a calculus to it, where it's like you have all the words and then the grammar and the way you arrange these things to paint a picture or explain something. But I think like what Wittgenstein talked about was like there's limits to thought and language, and those limits are like constantly expanding. But there is like a defined sort of something that exists outside of those limits. Like there's things that we're just never going to get to, even like as the limit of thought and language continues to grow and evolve over the years. It's like the whole these abstract concepts of like death and like what happened afterlife and all that kind of stuff is always going to exist outside of those limits. There it's those kinds of things are impossible to ever think about or even put into words. And so like I think a big part of his philosophy was just that like don't even think about that kind of stuff. Like don't like try to wrap your head around death, because you're just gonna fucking run around in circles until you're peeking out the blinds and you think the 5G towers are giving you Havana syndrome. Um, you know, but yeah, so I mean that's kind of what's fascinating about language. I haven't read a book in like a year and a half. I've been fucked up, but I'm gonna get back to reading. I'll get back to being a smart guy. I'm very smart. Um, and I did enjoy like I when I went to college, I did enjoy like studying English and reading and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, going to college for an English degree is just paying $100,000 to read books with other people and then talk about books, and then you try to write your own stories, and then a professor and like 18 other dipshits all read your story, try to tell you how to make it better, and then you rewrite it, take it back to the class, they read it again, they say good job, you made it better, and then nobody ever reads it again. And so you wrote a story for no one to read, you'll make no money, and you'll spend the rest of your life bartending because you got an English degree. But I think every degree is useless now. I was talking to a guy the other day who got like a computer science degree, and like, right out of college was making like 90 grand a year. And then now he's making like 200 something $1,000 a year. But he was telling me like at his company, like they're fucking laying off everybody. Like all these like people who are more than qualified to do that job are just getting fucking canned. So now it's like not even a fucking like a degree as valuable as that will like guarantee you any sort of like long-term employment. And so that's why I say the only like real option these days is podcasting. That's the only like job, real labor that's left is podcasting. We should all just be, talking into microphones, uploading those conversations to the internet, and all listening to what one another has to say. And that's the future, the digital space. Um, I don't know what I'm talking about, dude. I'm losing my fucking mind, dude. I'm out here. You can see where I am. So it's nice and quiet at least. It's not I just spend the days just twiddling my thumbs thinking about the way life used to be, you know. But I'm like a gay teenager. It gets better. It gets better. Um, I was I was thinking today about how good unfiltered cigarettes are. You ever had an unfiltered cigarette? You ever get a fucking pack of Camel unfiltereds? Dude, I feel like a cowboy smoking them boys. Um, I get they're probably like really bad for you, but damn, do they taste good. That's a good cigarette. My favorite might be when I was like 18, they came out with the Camel Crush, and there's a version of it that's like the idea of a Camel Crush is that it's a cigarette, but then there's like a little like piece of like microplastic in the butt of the cigarette, and so you squeeze the butt, and this like little microplastic like burst open, and now the cigarette it's filled with like menthol. So now the cigarette is menthol. So, but they make one that's where the cigarette is already menthol, and then you squeeze the microplastic, and it's even more menthol, dude. It feels like you're smoking straight Listerine, but god damn, is it not, dude? I feel like I'm on top of a mountain when I'm smoking a menthol Camel Crush menthol extra menthol on top of a fucking mountain. I also like clove cigarettes, which I guess technically aren't cigarettes anymore because like when Obama was in office, he passed something like outlawing every flavored cigarette except menthols. And you couldn't so the all the clove cigarettes they had to like pull off the shelves, and then like what's the big company that makes clothes like Jarum DJARUM Jarum. They like put them back out, but they're technically labeled as like cigars. They look like a cigarette, but I guess the wrapping is like technically some sort of like cigar wrapping. But damn, those are good. They'll make your tongue numb. And even places that have a smoking section won't let you smoke those because I went to the when I was a teenager, 18, yeah, 18, went to the Waffle House with the boys. And at the time in that part of Texas, that Waffle House had a smoking section. So sat down with the boys and I'm smoking me a little Jerem, a little Jerem's clove cigarette. And the manager came over and said, "Hey, you have to put that out. It's driving all of us up the fucking wall. Like how awful that smells." And I didn't know it smelled bad. I just thought it smelled like I was doing like sorcery or something. Like it reminds me of any of those like earthy places you go into that sell like crystals and like voodoo books. That's kind of what it's always smelled like to me. Is like the inside of a voodoo store. I want to get into voodoo. I would like to learn how to do voodoo to finally take my revenge on my enemies. But one thing at a time. I'm still trying to figure out podcasting. Um, I do like New Orleans. That's where the voodoo is. Go to a voodoo store in New Orleans, and they got books in there. They won't even let you thumb through until you buy them. They tell you like, "Hey, the magic in this book is too powerful for you to just open it here in the fucking store. If you're gonna to wield this magic, you need to give us $30 before you can even look upon the power contained within these pages." That's a good scam. That's a good scheme. Good con. Um, but it'll be a long time before I get to travel or go anywhere. But with your help, with your support, get the Patreon going. Fucking yeah, Patreon, and then the YouTube channel, iTunes. The show is corn fed with Dalton Pruitt. I do it with the main show, me and the two other fellas. It's me, my buddy Kevin, and my buddy Sal, and it's three guys who don't know how to even really use a computer or record anything. Just doing a fucking podcast together, dude, by the seat of our pants. And yeah, they're really good friends of mine. Um, I've known them for many, many years. Very funny guys, and they're just regular dudes these days. They're what professional comedians would call civilians. You like that? You like that when comedians call people who don't do comedy civilians? We're in the train. Comedians are. I mean, I guess I'm like not even a comedian anymore, but comedians are in the fucking trenches, dude. They're on the front lines. The front lines of free speech. Comedy's the last bastion of free speech. Some would say, they're out there fighting the war for everyone, for your freedom. And if you don't do stand up comedy, you're just a civilian. You don't know what it's like out there. You have no fucking clue what it's like to have to do stand up comedy. You don't. That's that's why it's so insulting to even talk to a comedian and ask them to tell you a joke or try and tell a joke to them. Don't even do that. Don't even fucking look at them. Don't ever fucking look at a comedian. Okay, revert your eyes as though the Metatron himself were standing before you. The Metatron being the voice of God. Or I guess you can. No, I think you can actually look at the Metatron. That's like his whole. It's like why he exists. It's because you can't look at God. Because like your eyes will fucking boil out of your head and your brain will melt. But the Metatron is like the the voice of God. So this like creation or some sort of angel or something that can interact with people and like people can actually like look at the Metatron and have a conversation with them. But I don't know. The only thing I really know about what the Metatron is from that movie Dogma, the Kevin Smith movie, and then the song by the Mars Volta on their album, the Bedlam and Goliath. The Metatron. Maybe I'll break down. Maybe I'll try circumvent inoculation. Something. I'm fucking a guy. Something like that. Um, but I don't know how I got onto that. Tron Legacy, Jeff Bridges, Burning Bridges, Kevin Brennan, Neil Brennan, Dave Chappelle Show, Donnell Rawlings, Ashy Larry, Larry Silverstein, the owner of the Twin Towers. He took out an insurance policy against both of those buildings right before 9/11. 9/11, Stranger Things, Millie Bobby Brown, New Edition. Uh, I'm out. That's enough free association. Robin Williams. Oh yes. That's one of the things they teach you in an improv class. You spend like $500 to go to one of these fucking improv classes, and then they just like tell you like just trying to teach you how to do like free associate. Like some fucking guy who I guess also got scammed into doing all that shit. Like he spent like 5 grand on all five of these classes. Now he gets to be a teacher. It's just teaching you how to do like Robin Williams free association stuff. Just like say something and then say another thing related to that thing, and then another thing related to that thing, and like somehow that's supposed to make you better at like this art form that nobody particularly enjoys anyway. Um, Improv, I tell you what, as much of a scam, scheme, and con stand up comedy is, improv is probably the ultimate because no, I don't think anyone likes it except for the people doing it. Like at least with like comedy, like stand up and podcasting and all that. I think like the people that the audience for that kind of stuff seem to like enjoy it in some way. I don't think anyone's ever enjoyed a live improv show. I don't think you just like five assholes going out on stage and doing like little make 'em ups in front of people is entertaining to anyone. because it kind of exists as this thing where it's like you're operating under this idea that like the crutch is that it's being made up on the spot. So like you're supposed to be wowed by the fact that these people got together and they're just like making up some bullshit in front of you. So it's somehow it's entertaining in the fact that there was no script and they're just so good at imagining things together that they're making it up right in front of you on the spot, and somehow that's supposed to be impressive. But I mean that's I mean what it's just what you do when you're in school. It's just like what like middle schoolers do at a lunch table, just fucking like bullshit with each other and make up like jokes with each other. And so somehow these like improv schools could like fleeced like convinced all these fucking people to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on like classes so they can just do what they used to do in middle school but in front of an audience made up of like their friends, family, and coworkers who didn't necessarily even want to go to this bullshit, but are doing it out of some sort of obligation to a person they care about. Um, and hey, look, I took 2 levels of improv, and look where it got me. You know, look what it did for me. And they say that, from what I understand, like one of the big reasons to do improv is either to like get pussy or like meet someone and fall in love or whatever. And that was not my experience. I got no pussy doing improv. I just spent $500. But it wouldn't be the first time I spent money on something that did not benefit me at all. I've lost everything, but I mean whatever. It's kind of liberating to live with your back against the wall. That's where con men come from. That's why you become a confidence man, is when you have nothing left, you just you say, fuck it. I'm just gonna like try and fucking do a scheme and scam and see if people pay me for that. Um, it's nice because when I bounce back, I'll be untouchable. Truly, I'm untouchable now. I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do that's worse than what's already happened to me? So fuck you. Fuck all y'all. Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/cornfed with Dalton Pruitt. All right, I guess this was a good like first run of like trying whatever this was. All right, I'm done.